Bonnie Habyan, welcome to the Positioning to Profit podcast. I'm so honored and thankful to have you here. And I was thinking as we were talking before we hit the go live button, we were having a really great conversation on what it means to build a personal brand post-COVID, and you having that CMO hat, being in the corporate side of things, alongside building your own personal brand as a speaker and author. There's so much here that we're going to cover today. Welcome, first and foremost. Please share with my audience a little bit about you and how you got to where you are today.
My name is Bonnie Habyan, as you mentioned, and I am a chief marketing officer for a financial real estate services firm currently. But I also, on the side, have started to build a little bit of a brand from a speaking perspective, an author perspective. And so I think I bring some unique characteristics in saying, okay, how do you use that personal brand to start to launch a business? But I have that added caveat is that I have a great day job, which I love. And I think just being able to do that on a daily basis while experimenting here and there has been a real wonderful tool for me personally.
That's so good. And it's such a great example of not necessarily your case because you love what you do, but how many times have I personally heard where people will contact me in the corporate side and say, oh, how'd you do it? How'd you quit? I'm like, I worked alongside my job, my main job, in order to make sure that transition was almost seamless. It's never going to be perfect. The idea here is just like you're doing is that you're developing that personal brand as an author and a speaker. And it's such a great example of how you can absolutely do both in a way that it's almost like you have these building blocks to your personal brand.
You are spot on. And first of all, I am just grateful that I'm in a position where the company is very supportive of, have a wonderful culture in that respect. And also when I came on board, I said, hey, listen, cat's out of the bag here a little bit. I'm publishing this book and I've started doing some speaking on the side. And that's really my passion. Mm-hmm. And they were completely fine with it because I think if we look back, and I say this a lot, I think our life's purpose is connecting. And there is nothing that brings a better reward for me than connecting with somebody else, whether it's someone that's gone through something similar, they're starting a new business, they're asking you how you did it. That brings great reward and joy. So I think if you're able to take that and encapsulate that into a brand and a personal brand and start to build on that, it's all about connection.
Yes.
If we're looking at it from a business perspective, right, we're trying to think of how can we increase revenue. Got it. But I got to tell you, in this day and age, especially post-pandemic, using your own personal brand to help solve that problem or to help get in front of that potential buyer and maybe sprinkle in some personal values and some personality is what's going to help make that differentiating brand and differentiate a little bit where people say, I know her. She's helped me. I trust her. Those little things very quickly, 5 or 10 seconds on an Instagram post can do it and bring you in a little bit more revenue.
I love that. Okay, so I definitely want to go into the 5 areas to focus on when you're creating your personal brand and your business. Before that, I love this quote that's on your website where you say, yes, you can, you just don't know it yet. So I love that as a precursor to what we're talking about, because then there's going to be some people that may be listening to this to say, do I really need to build a personal brand, or isn't that really complicated, or is this going to be really hard? What would you say with those 5 areas to focus on?
You know what? I think this is where I struggle because it's very easy for me to tell someone else what they should do. But I think there has to be a level of passion, enjoyment, and interest in doing it, or it's not going to be successful. Now, if you feel very comfortable talking about widgets and you are the widget maker and have a really great insight, you probably could talk about it all day long. If you ask me to talk about science, I'm not going to go on social and feel comfortable. But you ask me to talk about something from marketing perspective, maybe writing a book, being positive, creating your own personal business plan, I can talk about that all day long. So I think if you have a small business or some sort of a business where you are like, I feel really strong in that area and I think I can provide value, hopefully it would come naturally and it wouldn't be considered so hard because once you start, it just flows. And I think like you said, it's little building blocks, a bit at a time, that slow march that eventually accumulates. And that's what you really want.
I love it. All right. So let's go into the 5 areas to focus on. You want to share?
Yeah. The first one is really know your audience. I think that's critical. So again, if you're saying to someone, you need to go out there and build your personal brand because you're trying to sell your corporate brand, know who those people are. Know them like the back of your hand. Know what their pain points are. And you need to understand what it is that you bring that's a little bit different than everybody else. That's step number one. Number two is right behind that, and that is making sure you are solving a problem. So you and your expertise, every day you're out there and someone is interested in hearing what you're saying because you're saying something that's relevant to them. So if you're selling a special shoe that does something that another shoe doesn't do, or you are selling some sort of mom product that moms struggle with, and this is something that you wish you had as a mom, people for the most part will pay attention because you're helping make their lives easier. So I think if you can bring that, understand who your audience is, and then bring in a resolution or a solution through your personal brand every day, that gets their attention and starts to build the trust. Yeah, I think building into that, for sure, we all have superpowers, right? So number three to me is know what your personal brand superpower is. Now, if I ask you off the record right now, give me 2 or 3 superpowers you think you have, what would you say?
Helping people to discover their own superpower, as well as to say it in a succinct way that builds curiosity and has somebody on the receiving end say, tell me more.
Yes. So you are able to really come in, see somebody, peel the onion back and say, this is your superpower. This is what you're good at. This is what you need to sell or do or implement. Now, if someone asks me right away, it's inspirational, lots of energy, and very persistent. And there are 3 things that at first I knew them about myself, but I asked a few people and they start coming up with the same things, which I'm sure they do for you. Okay, that's my superpower. So I feel comfortable taking that as part of my brand and putting it out there in everything I do, whether it's something I post, you got this. Yes, you can. You just don't know it yet. Or being persistent, constantly out there with doing my book and saying, I'm going to see it through. I see it through. That's brand comes through in my business. That comes through in everything I do. If they look at me and say, yeah, she is a speaker and she talks about blah, blah, blah. It's my superpower. And I think if you know what your superpowers are, start to live by them, show them, demonstrate them, because they are ultimately as well what's solving that problem. And what's solving that problem now that you know what your audience truly is.
I was just talking to somebody about this, an entrepreneur, and she was like, well, how do I know what it is? I think I have it, but I'm not sure. And I said to her, it could just be as easy as doing some kind of a survey to your past clients, peers, mentors, and out of that, and there's some questions that you can easily put together, such as, tell me 3 adjectives that come to mind when you hear my name, or what do you think I'm known for? And again, you can deep dive into that in any which way, but what happens is you're going to discover things about you that you've been glossing over because there's such an how do they call it, unconscious confidence, like it's just who you are. Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes that for people to see, look at how brilliant you are at that. You didn't even realize. And then you say, oh, that's just so easy for me. No, that's the thing. And I think people, they put it on the side as, oh, everybody knows how to do that. And it's like, no, that's not the case.
You're so right. I find that with LinkedIn. To me, it's innate. I love it. I'm all over it. People say they're giving me like sometimes passwords. I'm like, what? Oh, that's not my password to LinkedIn. That it's just to me, it's so natural and normal. And you go on and you do. To others, it's not, but yet they could probably look at balance sheets all day long. And I'm like, that's Greek to me.
Yeah.
But Patty, you hit something on the nail on the head, because I think if you go and you ask a few people and you say, what is it that you see? I'm telling you, 10 to 1, you're going to get 3 or 4 of the same answers from the same folks. And so that is I think one of the most accurate ways to come and say, this is what my superpower is, and feel comfortable with that. I think after you develop a couple of those steps I talked about and look at it, 4th one is you really have to understand your customer access strategy. And when I say that, it sounds complicated. It's not. Where are your folks hanging out? Where are they? Are they on TikTok? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they reading Forbes? Are they reading Inc. magazine? You have to understand where they are all the time, and then deliver your brand to them. Because I know our business, I'm in commercial real estate finance. They're not hanging out on TikTok. These are people that are mostly on LinkedIn. And so that's where I spend most of my effort and my time in providing them value and understanding what their pain points are. Other folks might be selling much more business to consumer items on Instagram or Pinterest all day long. If you understand where your clients are, you can develop a very good integrated access strategy to make sure that you are putting your messages out there and aligning whatever it is you're trying to convey all the time. And before you know it, you are like a Mary Kay or a Elon Musk, and you are the brand, because they're complete examples of how a CEO and a personal brand have kind of meshed.
Yes. So is that the 5?
Nope, got 4. We have one more, and this is my favorite. And I think I say this one a lot in most everything I do, because I think being consistent and persistent, once you start putting those other elements in place, being consistent and persistent with however you're trying to get your brand out there is critical. Things don't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time. You and I were talking just about compiling email lists or followers, whatever it is you're looking to do. It takes a very concerted effort. And it's not something you say, I think I'll just do it today, but I don't feel like doing it tomorrow. No, you have to be diligent and stay out there. You will be surprised if you stay with it for a while. Next time you see someone, oh my gosh, I haven't seen your stuff. You know what? I got to tell you, I really like the post that you wrote about the 5 different types of soil you need to use to grow Brussels sprouts, because I've been trying to find that for 5 years, and you give some really great tips. And that's the kind of feedback. Okay, let me go back and do 10 more of those, because that's resonating with people. It's trial and error.
Absolutely. A couple of notes on that, Bonnie, is that your first point around being consistent, persistent, I cannot agree with you more. An early mentor of mine said in 2013, when I was freaking out because I'd quit my job, and kind of that realization of what did I do, right? That just hit. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Is this going to happen for me, etc.? And I'm going to tell you something. Nobody is ever consistent. And the people that are the ones that win. And if you're looking for success, that's what it takes.
You just gave me chills.
Because to this day, I'm like, oh my God, it's the truth though.
No, it is. You know what? You do things when others aren't looking. You do things. I use that in a lot of when I speak, and when I like to mentor younger people too. And I'm like, listen, I tell my daughter all the time, do what other people won't do, be consistent and persistent. And I'm telling you, so if you put $50 away today for the next 25 years, you'll have nearly $1 million. Yeah. Think about the person that doesn't. Be consistent and persistent, and that compounding interest that you make in life, it happens. You just have to be a little patient and keep at it.
It's so true. And that's really the magic of what we're talking about, is whatever you decide. And granted, whether you are developing a personal brand in business or as a solopreneur, entrepreneur, it's about being consistent and also recognizing that it's iterative, meaning there's going to be times when you flex and new doors open or things happen, and that's okay. But it's being exploratory about it, but being on the path as well. Because all too often I see people will have these self-sabotaging behaviors. Will they be like, oh, I'm going to do this until it's just right. And I'm like, okay, that's a self-sabotaging behavior. This is you staying in your comfort zone instead of putting yourself out there. So it's about being consistent, about putting yourself out there, being consistent about taking those small reps and recognizing that this is what it takes regardless, right? Whether you are in corporate or outside.
I think you hit on something too when you were saying, I'm going to be doing it till it's just, you know what? I think that brings another element that we didn't talk about. Through all of this branding, you have to be authentic. You're not always going to be authentic. Sometimes I've tried 1 or 2 things and I'm like, you know what? That didn't feel right. But when I go out there and talk about, I don't know how I felt when I looked in my mom's box and found something, or, hey, I'm proud of my kid, I haven't seen her. It's amazing that you will get a lot of interest in things that maybe sometimes you're a little vulnerable, right? It's a little scary, but I find for the most part, if you're able to share something and people can relate, that's where you get the biggest response.
And I'll tell you, one of the most powerful things that you can do for the listeners out there is incorporating exactly what Bonnie is talking about, that authenticity via your stories. The fact that you've written this book about your mom and you could connect with people all around the world about your connection to your mom. It's like, that's your story. So story will never go out of style. And that is such a beautiful platform and springboard for connection and really cultivating the relationships that are going to help you in your business, in your personal brand.
It really does. I tell you, I would say to anyone that does have a business, if they ever decide to write a book, opens up a whole new layer of opportunity. I was sharing with you, you don't write a book to make money on the book, that you write it to share your expertise and your thought leadership and your brand. And it is amazing. The people you meet, the opportunities you get that you'd be shocked at. You just don't see certain things coming. And really the connections you make with people. And that to me has been the biggest reward. Life's all about connecting.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to have to reach out and say, okay, it's time for my book. I know everyone's got a book in them. And then I've just been putting it on the table. I'm not ready yet, not ready yet. I have an idea for the concept, but yeah, it's a labor of love, but it's so rewarding. I don't think I've ever
Hugely.
talked to anybody that said I regret it. People love that they wrote their book.
And what a feeling of, if you like to go talk about being consistent, persistent, right?
Yeah.
But if you're like me, I like to finish something. I hate starting something and never stopping it. So once you start it, make sure you're committed and make sure that you envision what that's going to feel like at the end. Because thinking about being at a Barnes and Noble with my mom at 91, side by side, was a dream.
Oh,
And
that's
that kept me going for 7 years. And then I made it come true. It's not always that easy, but, and that is something I will always cherish.
how cool. How cool. All right. I have a feeling that I may know where are going to go in our fast 5 questions. So let's transition to the fast 5. And it's just 5 questions. You answer organically. There are no wrong answers. Are you ready?
Okay. I feel like I'm on Jeopardy.
All right. Number 1, what would make this year a great year?
My daughter being happy. She is
Excellent.
happy, but she's in law school, so I wanted to kick butt.
Oh, got it. Person, place, or thing. What is one thing that deeply inspires you?
Other women who've come adversity or challenge and has just gone out there and done really well for themselves.
Beautiful. Number, what are we at? 3. What is your greatest extravagance?
Every day, I'd say about 3 times a week, my Starbucks. I love my Starbucks. I love everything about the brand. That is probably like my go-to extravaganza.
I love it. Number 4, when and where are you the happiest?
I think I'm happiest on my couch at night, watching some kind of good Netflix streaming story.
Yeah, and just chilling.
Chilling, yeah, for an hour a day.
Yeah, I love it. Agreed. And last question. After all is said and done, Bonnie, what do you want your legacy to be?
I think someone who was inspirational and someone that had a good heart and tried to do things the right way for people.
Excellent. All right, Bonnie Habyan, how do people get in touch with you, find out more about your beautiful book?
Thank you. My website, meetbonnieh.com. It's that easy. I've got a lot of different anecdotes regarding my mom and some information about myself, and also anything if anyone's interested in speaking. I speak a lot about women, motivation, and women providing opportunity to other women, and how your life deserves a business plan. So a couple of good motivational topics there.
Beautiful. Meet Bonnie H. You're also going to find that in the show notes over on the website. Bonnie, thank you so much for sharing and imparting this wisdom to my community and listeners. We so appreciate you, and thank you.
Well, thank you for doing it. You do a great job, and I highly recommend anyone to listen to your podcast if they want to move the needle a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Bonnie.